Hello everyone, we are officially on module 3. So this should be week 2, module 3. I hope you enjoyed the first 2 modules where we went over just kind of the basics, getting into this, easing our way in. Starting this week, we're really going to start getting into the nitty gritty of meal prepping and mindset shifting. And then we're also going to throw a little bit of hydration in there because that's also just so freaking important. But yeah, this is going to be a long one. So if you need to ever just pause and take a break and then come back, please do so. This is just going to be a bit of a longer one just because we are getting into a lot of good stuff today. So let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to go over meal prep basics. What is mindset shifting? What are affirmations? And overcoming the fear of failure. So these are just basic principles that we're going to cover that help you rewrite the script in your head going forward, because what we tell ourselves becomes our reality. And so it's really important to make sure that we are coming to this with an open mind and coming here with a positive outlook on all of this. You might think I'm crazy at some point, but that's okay. All of these methods are tried and true. I have done them myself. My clients have done them and seen great success. So it's not just a hippy dippy kind of thing that you're like, oh, that's not even going to work. It does work. So just bear with me today. But first we're going to get into meal prepping. Meal prepping is simply the bulk preparation of food. That's literally all it is. It is typically used to optimize both time and resources and can allow us to be successful with our nutrition throughout the week. It eliminates the need to hustle or cook throughout the week. Meals are usually prepared in advance, so you don't have to guess where any of your meals are going to come from. And it removes the need for scrounging for food, which typically leads to fast food. You know the saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. And meal prep is all about planning and creating success for you each and every week. But like with all things, there are both pros and cons to meal prepping. And there are multiple ways to meal prep. So there's not one way that fits everyone, but hopefully we can find some strategies that will work for you and set you up for success. So there are both pros and cons of meal prepping, like I said. The pros come down to basically efficiency. It just makes your week so much more efficient, and it makes there be a lot less work throughout the week for you. It reduces cooking time throughout the week, so you don't have to cook a meal every single day. It guarantees where your next meal is going to come from, so you won't have that lunchtime freak out if you forgot your lunch and then end up going to McDonald's or Wendy's down the street. It sets you up for success throughout the week. If you know where all your meals are going to come from, all you have to do is eat them. And then it's also just more efficient throughout the week. It's going to reduce the amount of dishes that you have to do. It's going to reduce the amount of time you spend in the kitchen. So there are a lot of pros, and basically those all come down to just making your week more efficient. The cons is it takes a lot of time over the weekend. My meal prep typically takes anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, just depending on how efficient I am and how many different cooking methods I'm willing to put into the week. It does take a good amount of planning. So you do have to go to the grocery store with a very precise grocery list. The worst thing is when you go get your groceries, you come back, you start meal prepping, and you realize you forgot like 1 or 2 ingredients that you need for the entire week's meals. And you have to go back to the grocery store, and then it's just a mess. And then also you have to buy and cook everything in bulk. So again, it just takes some time because you do have to buy everything at one time, and you also cook everything at one time. So the cons basically involve time consumption. Meal prepping can make your life so much easier throughout the week, but it does take time. It does take careful planning over the weekend. But with those 2 things, it's really easy to do and can also just make your life so much easier. So there are 2 types of meal prepping. It does not have to always be you make every single meal throughout the week and you have 100 Tupperwares in your fridge. That's not the only type of meal prep. So the types of meal prepping. You have staple prepping. This is something that I do on weeks that I know I don't have to leave the house as much because I'll be home, or weeks that I just feeling kind of lazy and maybe don't want to eat the same thing every day. This is what I turn to. I call it staple prepping. This is where you bulk prepare staple items in your regular diet. So you'll prep some protein, some carbs, maybe some fats, but you don't divide it into meals. So for example, I always have a giant tub of rice and a giant tub of cooked chicken in my fridge. That way, if I just decide one day that I want to be lazy, or maybe I'm in a pinch for time, I can still throw together a meal relatively easy, and it does save me from having to go out and get something. So that's basically what it allows you to do. It also allows you to create more meal variety through the week. If you make some beef, you make some chicken, you make some rice, you make some potatoes, you can have beef and rice, or beef and potatoes. You can have chicken and rice, you can have chicken and potatoes. So it lets you kind of switch up your meals a little bit more than like actually meal prepping. And it also allows for fresher produce. With staple prepping, you typically don't make your produce on top of those meals. And so it will let you, one, choose more variety, and two, make those types of produce. So like air fried broccoli, for example. I love air fried broccoli. But sometimes when it sits in the fridge for too long, it gets kind of chewy. So if I want beef and potatoes and I decide I want air fried broccoli, all I have to do is pop some broccoli in the air fryer, wait for 10 minutes, and I'm good to go. My meal is done, and I have fresh produce. So that's another benefit of staple prepping. It's great for those who work from home or go home for lunch. If you have time to make lunches, or if you just want to be able to cook dinner, staple prepping would be great for you. And it's also great for those who really don't enjoy eating the same things. I am a person who can eat the same things the most of the time, but there's some weeks I get really tired of it. So I will go from meal prepping to staple prepping, and staple prepping will allow you to create more variety, more flavor, more pizzazz with your meals. Then we go to meal prepping. Meal prepping is what you think of when you see all of the Tupperwares in the fridge. This is where you prepare all of the food, but then also divide each food into its own meal container. All of these items are cooked and portioned in advance, and this allows you to know where each and every meal is going to come from. If you don't like having any guesswork and you just want to know that my breakfast, lunch, and dinner is ready to go, this is going to be great for you. It's also great for those who work full time and at another location and would rather not cook throughout the week. And it's also great for those who like consistency in eating. Again, some weeks I'm like, I don't want to have to think about what I'm going to eat. I just want to, especially on busy weeks, I just want to know that I have 3 meals ready to go each day, and then I'm good to go. Staple prepping does have its cons though. Like, it's super awesome, but it can be a little more risky than meal prepping. For example, you don't make it home for lunch, or you get tied up and you get busy, then you're more likely to skip a meal because it's not already ready for you. It also does mean that you have to make produce for each of those meals, and that can become tedious and overlooked or skipped for the sake of saving time. So if you decide that you're super busy one day and you're like, oh, I don't have time to make broccoli, then you'll just have a meal without vegetables, which is something we want to avoid. We want to include vegetables and fruits into most of our meals. And then there is one caveat to meal prepping I want to mention. This does not mean that you have to prepare all of your meals throughout the day. You do not have to make a breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack 2, etc. This can, and it's very important to clarify this, because if you only need to have breakfast and lunch prepped, that's okay. Like, if you know those meals are difficult for you to get in, it's okay to only prep those difficult meals. So for example, busy moms who have to get their kids to school, meal prepping, something that you can eat really early in the morning as you're getting your kids ready, can be helpful. But maybe you're home the rest of the day, so you don't need to prep lunch and dinner. That's okay. Another example, if you have a 9-to-5 job and you know lunch is typically challenging for you, or maybe you have lunchtime meetings and need to be able to grab and eat whenever time allows, prepping just lunches could be very helpful. But you do not have to prepare all 3 to 5 meals a day that you're eating. Perfect example. Depending on the week, if me and my husband know that we will have time to make dinner and eat together, I do not prep dinners because I think that's an important time for us to have. But on busier weeks or weeks that I have travel, I do prep my dinners because I don't want to have to think about it. So it's about what works for you and your schedule. And then there are some cons to meal prepping as well. Other than time commitment at the top of the week, if you forget to eat or neglect to eat a meal, which sometimes happens because you're like, if I eat this meal one more time, I'm going to die. Then that food gets typically wasted. And I know there are a few people out there who really just don't like to waste food. So be mindful of that. I always make sure to make 2 less meals than I think I need, just so that way I know I typically go out at least once on the weekend with like my husband or friends. And so I make 1 less meal at least every week. And then I typically take away another one just because stuff happens and I just feel like that's not going to get eaten. But I also don't want to waste it. So you have to find the middle ground between making too much and making enough. Because also the worst thing that could happen is you get to Thursday and you realize you have no more meal preps. And then Friday through Sunday, you're eating out because you don't want to go to the grocery store again. Also, I have a little bit of stuffiness going on this week, so please just bear with me. All right, so there are 4 steps to a successful meal prep. Step 1, decide what you're eating. Be specific, be thorough. Again, you don't want to go to the grocery store and realize you're missing some stuff. Step 2, grocery shop for those items. Make sure you've checked off everything on your list. Step 3, you cook all items separately in batch portions, so in big portions. And then step 4, measure and weigh out all of your portions and divide them into containers if you're meal prepping. If you are staple prepping, you can just cook all items separately and then put them all in one big container. That is also okay. Tips for meal prepping. Start your Instapots and crock pots first. These are so underutilized, but make it so much easier. Once you start these items in the crock pot or Instapot, they are out of sight, out of mind. You can have these things running as you cook other foods. For example, I always start rice in the Instapot, and I always have chicken in the crock pot first thing because I don't have to worry about them once started, and I can move on to cooking different things. So it's not like you have to keep checking on them, worrying about if they're burning or not. You put them in there, they're done. Compartmentalize. And what I mean by compartmentalize is plan your prep to use one apparatus at a time. So divide your foods into protein and carbs. Cook one variation per cooking method. So I can have chicken breast in the oven, ground beef on the stove, salmon in the air fryer. Then I repeat that same process with my carb options. I will pan sear potatoes on the stove, cook sweet potatoes in the oven, and rice is cooking already in the Instapot. So as you get more and more advanced and get more comfortable as you practice, you'll find ways to decrease the time you're cooking and increase the things you're cooking at one time. So start with 1 to 2 items and increase as you become more experienced, just so that you don't burn your foods. Which brings us to number 3. Don't let your food burn. It's so easy to get distracted. Trust me. If you have a TV show on the TV behind you and you're like, you go over here and you start watching TV, it's so likely that something's going to burn. I've done it so many times. So just make sure you keep an eye on your foods and don't let yourself get distracted, or set timers. Timers are always so helpful. Portion your foods right away. As soon as the food is done cooking in a reasonable temperature to work with, don't scald your hands. Portion it immediately and put the dish in the sink or wash it. This is your preference here. If it's a pot or pan that I want to use for another item, I wash and dry it immediately so that I can start the next item. But portioning things right away, getting those big clunky pots and pans out of the way, just makes everything so much easier to work with. And then number 5, keep your workspace clean and clutter free. Cross-contamination can increase your risk of getting sick. And who wants to work in a dirty area? So that can make the entire experience even more overwhelming than it already can be. So just make sure you keep your workspace clean and clutter-free. And if you are using lots of raw meats, I do just suggest that you wash your cutting boards and knives before moving from one item to the next. My husband's really big on that one. He like Cloroxes the entire kitchen. I think that's a little overboard, but that's what he does because he is so terrified of food poisoning. So if you are also terrified of food poisoning, just make sure you're being pretty clean. Basically treat it like you would want a restaurant to treat your food. If someone's cooking your food for you, or if you're cooking your food for someone else, think of it like that. It'll make you keep your space much cleaner. And then schedule your meal prep. Treat it like a date with yourself or an important meeting that you can't miss. Scheduling it will make you more likely to stick to it. And what we are trying to create here is consistency. So make sure that you schedule it, write it down, pen and paper it into your calendar, and then stick to it. Okay. Not all proteins have the same shelf life. And eating foods past their prime, it's not likely to make you sick, but it can cause digestive issues, so bloating, cramping, etc. But in the worst case, food poisoning. I've never gotten food poisoning, oh my goodness, from meal prep, but I have eaten some questionable things that, one, it just doesn't taste as good. The biggest example of this is I didn't know in my first few months of meal prepping that salmon goes bad in the fridge after 2 to 3 days. Like, that's the absolute latest you should eat it in the fridge because fish just breaks down much more quickly than red meat, pork, or poultry. So I was making salmon on Sundays and eating it all the way till the next Sunday. And I was wondering why I was having so much like bloating and my stomach was cramping. Like from Wednesday to Sunday, I was having cramps. I'm like, what is going on? And then I readjusted, reanalyzed, and realized that seafood only is good in the fridge for 3 days max. So keep that in mind when you are making your proteins. For poultry and pork, you can get through the entire week. It's the freshest for the first 3 to 5 days, but you can go 5 to 7 days eating it. Red meat, the exact same. Seafood's the only one that's different. It's freshest for the first 2 days. It's safe for 3 days. And safe as in, like, won't cause digestive issues. So if you do want seafood to be in your diet, I suggest you prep it Sundays, eat through Wednesday, and then make some more on Wednesday to get you through the rest of the week. So that can just help you minimize those digestive issues that I had to learn the hard way. All right, so we're going to go ahead and change over to hydration. If you know me, you know I love hot water. I'm not a big cold water gal. When it gets to be summer, that will change. But right now in the winter, I just always want to be drinking something hot. So I do drink a lot of hot water, which I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. So that way I can keep speaking. I have like drainage like right behind my nose. And so I sound so nasally. All right. If you want to take a break, this is where I suggest, or after the hydration before we get into mindset shifting. But if you need to take a break, please feel free to pause and come back. So, what is hydration? Hydration includes your intake of water, including water mixed with protein shakes and electrolytes, seltzers, teas, coffees, broths, juice, milk, and non-dairy substitutes, so like oat milk, almond milk, things of that nature. Drinking enough water helps manage hunger, energy, recovery, and more. This is a very debated fact in the nutrition world, but does anything that's not plain water contribute to your hydration? It does, but minimally, okay? And caffeine in coffee is actually something that will make you feel more dehydrated. So it's important that for those drinks that we're drinking that are not just water, that we are drinking enough real water. So getting enough water, super crucial. Our body is basically all water. So make sure that your water, that water makes up 80% of your hydration intake. So 20% of that can come from coffee, tea, broth, juice, milk, whatever, but make sure at least 80% of it is coming from actual water. A general guideline is that you should be drinking half of your body weight in ounces. For those of you who are active, it is important that you are drinking at least 1 gallon of water a day. On days that you are more active, you might find that you need more than that. And days that you're less active, you might find that you need less than that. But a good place to aim is 1 gallon of water a day. And this is because we lose a lot of our water through sweat. So we need to be able to replenish it and stay in a state of homeostasis. So being balanced. For men, actually, you can drink a little more because you're typically bigger than women. So you can get away with 1.5 to 2 gallons a day. So how do you know if you are hydrated enough? Through this little lovely pee chart. That's how. You can look these up online. They're everywhere. Super easy to find. But we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up to the top. If your urine is dark brown or amber brown, any shade of brown you need to drink a lot more water. You need to drink at least 1 liter of water immediately. Okay? If your urine has any red tint in it, you need to seek a medical professional. Okay? That is when you are entering a state of deterioration. And so blood from the deteriorating muscles and organs will be leaked out through urine. Okay? So it's called rhabdo. That's how most people know it and label it. And you've probably heard of it if you're in the CrossFit space, but this can also come from extreme dehydration. Amber or golden, you're moderately dehydrated. You need to drink at least 1/4 to 1/4 to 1/2 liter of water immediately. More if you're sweating or exercising. If you're sweating and exercising and you're at this color, you are more at risk to go down to dark brown if you do not make an adjustment soon. Dark yellow, light honey, you're mildly dehydrated. I feel like this is where most of us wake up in the morning. This is what your pee should look like in the morning because you've just gone 8 hours, ideally, because you should be sleeping 8 hours, which we'll get into next week. This is where we wake up because we've just gone 8 hours without drinking any water. So mildly dehydrated. Try to drink 1/4 of a liter within the hour or a half hour or 1/2 of a liter within the hour if you are sweating, exercise, or outside in the heat. So drink 1/2 or 1/4 of a liter if you're not exercising, 1/2 liter if you are exercising or doing anything that's requiring that you sweat. Faint yellow. This is about where we want to be always, okay? So this is great. You are probably really well hydrated. Continue drinking water throughout the day as normal. You don't need to chug anything. Transparent. If your pee, you can't even see it in the bowl with the toilet water. You're drinking too much water. There is drinking too much water, okay? So our blood cells need a balanced amount of water. If you drink too much water, they can swell too much, and that does create a additional hydration problem, hypohydration. So if you are transparent, you can probably lay off the water a little bit. Maybe drink a coffee if it's not super late in the afternoon to dehydrate you a little from that. But if you are regularly seeing clear pee, you need to drink a little less water. All right, intro to mindset shifting. This is really where I suggest you pause because we have a whole another 15 slides after this. But we're going to go ahead and get right to it. All right. All right. An introduction to mindset shifting. Mindset shifting is all about learning how to reprogram the way you see yourself and the world around you. This shift happens on two different levels: your conscious mind level and your subconscious level. Your conscious mind is in control of the awareness of what is around you and what you are experiencing both physically and emotionally. Your subconscious mind is a cemented level beneath the conscious, and it's like a data bank that holds long-term beliefs and values. So your subconscious is being built from the moment you are born, okay? Or the moment that you develop rational thought, so probably early childhood. But these are beliefs and systems that you learn from your parents, that you learn from experiencing right and wrong, things of that nature. So in order to change our conscious thoughts, we must be aware of our thoughts at all time, good or bad. The subconscious isn't as easy to reprogram since it is beneath the surface, and since these are things that you learn from a very early age and carry with you through a lot of your adulthood. But the best way to reprogram the subconscious is through continuous reassurance during our brain's most vulnerable stages. So right when you wake up and right before you go to bed. To create a more positive and optimistic life, we must combine both conscious accountability and reprogramming our subconscious. So to create a full shift in our mindset, we must work on creating change in both of these levels. Cultivating a growth mindset. So what type of mindset do you have? One of growth or one that is very fixed? So you've probably heard what I've been talking about, and you're either like, wow, this lady is insane, or you're feeling called and intrigued by what I've been saying about changing your mindset. And it comes down to what type of mindset you have: a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is very limiting. It typically manifests itself in everyday actions and can look like avoiding challenges, giving up easily, being threatened or jealous of other people's accomplishments, desiring to look smart, viewing effort as fruitless, ignoring feedback, and seeing your abilities as fixed, as in they know what they know, or you know what you know. You're not really open for a growth, which brings us to a growth mindset. A growth mindset is very freeing, and it provides freedom. Those with growth mindsets persevere in the face of challenges or failures. They acknowledge the effort that is required to build new skills. They find inspiration in the success of others. They embrace challenges. They accept criticism, and they have a desire to learn and build new skills and abilities. So think about all of those things that I just listed and tell me what type of mindset you have. A lot of us have very fixed mindsets, and we'll get right into that. Did you know that humans have anywhere from 45,000 to 51,000 thoughts per day? That is literally 150 to 300 thoughts per minute. And for most people, 80% of these thoughts are negative. And the issue of this fact is this: our thoughts become our actions, and our actions create our reality. So everything that happens in the world around us falls back to our mindset. And our mindset controls everything. So if 80% of your mindset is negative, then your life is likely to be a lot more negative and a lot less satisfying. So the first step in making mental change is to recognize the thoughts that are limiting us from achieving growth, success, or change. All of these negative thoughts are what we call limiting beliefs. And these limiting beliefs are what hold us back from achieving everything we want to achieve, because they hold us in a fixed mindset. But first we have to identify them. So think of all the negative thoughts that reoccur in your mind. These limiting beliefs are what we fight with affirmations, which we will get into in the next slide. But here are some very typical limiting beliefs. I can't lose fat. I don't like my stomach. I am too busy. I have an unhealthy relationship with food. So we keep telling ourselves all of these non-truths, but we believe them, so they continue to limit us. If we think we can't lose fat, we're not going to lose fat. If we don't like our stomach, no matter what changes, you're not going to like your stomach, because it's not a physical thing. It's a mindset thing. I'm too busy. If you tell yourself you're too busy, nothing's getting done. Okay? It's not that you're too busy. Your priorities are somewhere else. And we can find time to prioritize lifting weights for 30 minutes a day, right? I have an unhealthy relationship with food. That may be the case. But what if we changed it to, I am changing my relationship with food. I am creating a more positive relationship with food. I don't know if you can see, but all of these holding us back statements, these limiting beliefs, we speak them as if they're truth. I can't lose fat. How do you know that? Have you tried? Have you done all of the right things? I don't like my stomach. Have you tried to like your stomach? Have you tried to look at your body in a different way? I am too busy. Have you tried reordering your priorities? Putting yourself at the top of that list? I have an unhealthy relationship with food. What's stopping you from changing that? These are not things that are set in stone, but we treat them like they are. So what we have to do is we have to flip the script, and we have to focus on what we can do. I can lift weights for 30 minutes a day. Everyone has 30 minutes in their day. Go look in your screen time on your iPhone, and when it says 1 to 2 hours, tell me you don't have time to lift some weights for 30 minutes a day. If you were to stop staring at your phone for 30 minutes every single day, that's 30 minutes you could go to the gym. Instead of saying, I don't like my stomach, say, I love my eyes. I love my legs. We have such a tendency to focus on the negative things rather than shifting our view to the positives. Okay? Or let's say, I love my stomach because it shows that I gave life to 2 children. Finding beauty in those things is how we're going to flip the script in our mind. And we do that with affirmations. So, affirmations are personal reassurances. And it's important that they be personalized to you and they be personalized to the realms of your life that you are struggling in. Why do they work? They're simple but incredibly powerful because they rewrite our subconscious and conscious thoughts. They can be used to drown out the negative voices in our head that steer us further away from peace and happiness. And there are tons of different realms to where these apply. But the 3 most common ones that I see are self-esteem, self-love, and self-acceptance, abundance in love, money, and happiness, and then combating fear and anxiety. But whatever it is, affirmations can be personalized to you and where you need them. So, benefits of affirmation: internal motivation. They help you prioritize your life in a way that you are adjusting and acknowledging the things that need to change. So you can increase your internal motivation by noticing, these are the things I need to change, these are the things I'm going to work on, and these are the things I'm going to practice. They aid you in accomplishing your goals because they help you keep focused on that goal. They manipulate the negative thoughts within your subconscious mind and allow you to take control of your thoughts and emotions. And they can also help you create more positive thoughts and actions, which in turn increases overall positivity and helps you attract more positivity in your life. I'm sure you've heard this quote in some form or fashion, but what you practice grows stronger. And this is the idea behind affirmations. By practicing these, we can create much more positive thoughts, feelings, and environments for ourselves. So, for using affirmations and for them to work, you have to use them consistently. The best way to use them is by practicing them day in and day out. And there are many different ways that you can practice them. So you can write them down on paper or in your notes app. You can incorporate them into your morning routine to start the day with a positive energy. You can speak them out loud with full confidence to fully accept and live your day by them. And you can read them and say them again before going to sleep. So by doing it this way, you are reprogramming your mind at both of its most vulnerable stages, right when you wake up, right when you go to sleep. So some tips for using affirmations. I want you to focus on how you're feeling at the time that you're writing them and after. Create some affirmations that help adjust your mood if needed. For example, if you wake up and you're really down, you could always do a brain dump, get to the root cause of why you're feeling down. And then you remind yourself that you are human and not perfect, but you're perfect the way you are. For example, I wake up, I'm feeling really moody and negative, but I don't really want to feel that way. I realize I'm moody because I'm stressed out about a bill that's coming up. My affirmations could include, I'm surrounded by abundance. I'm a money magnet. I am increasingly attracting abundance into my life. Afterwards, I feel less stressed. Yay, I can move on with my day. If I don't feel any better, I can continue diving and continue affirming. Adjust them as you need. So after 2 to 3 weeks, affirmations can start to feel a bit stale. So change them up. You don't have to do the same affirmations every single day, and you don't have to do them for longer than they feel right to you. And then last tip, be consistent and repeat them every single day. Get excited, create a ritual of some sort, and be proud of taking action and working towards becoming the best version of yourself. All right, types of affirmations. There are 3 types of affirmations that we're going to focus on just because they're the things I see most commonly. These are addressing what you feel you have a lack of, okay? So these go back to those limiting beliefs. If you need affirmations for abundance, they address what you view you are in lack of. Most people, it's money, love, time, energy. If you need affirmations for self-esteem, these focus on how you feel about yourself internally and externally. So these refer back to body image, self-doubt, confidence, worthiness. Affirmations for fear and anxiety. They focus on what scares you about the future and what you cannot control. So safety, security, understanding, relationships. If you have any fear or anxieties about any of those things, these are great affirmations for you to practice. Fear of failure. Fear of failure is the number one reason that most people do not achieve their goals. We all know what fear of failure is. It's that what if statement that we allow to control our lives. What if we don't make it? What if we fail? What if I lose everything, right? The fear of not accomplishing our goals is the number one reason we don't take action or push ourselves towards our goals. And thus we stay in the same place. Trust me, I get it. Our brain is literally designed to keep us comfortable and safe. So the idea of trying something new or putting ourselves out there can be really scary. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I lose everything? And it's not your fault. It is literally ingrained in us. We've been taught that if we don't get an A on an exam or get a good report card or get an answer wrong, then you've failed. But life is not an exam. It is not a pass or fail test. The first step in achieving your goals is overcoming and setting aside the fear of failure. Of realizing that in life there is no such thing as failure. There is only learning and adjusting with each decision. The choice is ours. It's up to us. And we have to say yes to that choice. We have to say yes to not listening to our fear of failure. So the next steps. Discover the 3 affirmations that you need the most. These are the things that reoccur in your head over and over again. I can't lose weight. I don't have enough money. I can't start that business idea because I can never make it. Discover the 3 affirmations you need the most by listing out those limiting beliefs. Write these 3, after you write down those 3 limiting beliefs, write down the polar opposite beside it, okay? Now, these are your 3 affirmations that you need to hear the most. So if it's, I can't lose weight, I can do anything I set my mind to. That's the exact opposite. If I can't start this business idea because I could never be successful, I can be successful in anything I put my mind and effort into. The exact polar opposite of those limiting beliefs in your head are your 3 affirmations. And I want you to write these 3 affirmations on 3 sets of sticky notes. So you're going to have 3 sets of them. I want you to place those 3 sets on the 3 places you look the most. Those are most likely your bathroom mirror, because you look at it every morning and every night. On your car, so that while you're on your way to and from work, you see them. And at your office on your computer. We stare at our screens all day, so make sure it is somewhere there. You could even make it a screensaver. Okay, just type them out, make a little screensaver, go on Canva, make a little graphic, and have them be your background. And then repeat them first thing in the morning and right before going to bed every single day. And then repeat them every time you look at them. So those are your next steps in your homework for this week. Looking ahead, we are going to dive into protein. We're going to look into lifestyle factor number 2, so sleep. We're going to talk about eating out at restaurants. And then we're also going to talk about hand portioning, which can be really helpful when you're on the go or don't have a scale available. So make sure you tune in next week for module 4, and I can't wait to see you there. Also, there is a list of affirmations that you guys can use if you need help coming up with some, as well as some affirmation links to some helpful YouTube videos that I have attached along with this course in this module's coursework. So make sure you check that out. I will see you guys next week.